Hello everyone and welcome back to the next episode of the Road to the Master series. This is the episode number 55 in which I got paired against Vladimir Hamitevici, Grandmaster from Moldova in the round number 4 of Kielce Chess Open. As you may remember from the previous episode, I told you guys that I have high chances of getting white pieces against a higher rated opponent. As you can tell, those chances didn't come true because I am repeating the color. Same as in the round number 3, I am playing with black pieces, so second time in a row with black pieces, second time in this tournament with black pieces against a Grandmaster, so not ideal pairings as you may say, but you know, we fight with what we've got, and this is no different. Against this specific player it was quite hard to prepare because he plays a lot, he's a creative guy, therefore you never know what will his mind create during the game because he seems to not prepare so much beforehand. So c4 that he chose was kind of a surprise to me. I was mostly expecting d4, maybe knight f3 if he would like to go into the closed positions, but we got c4 on the board. I replied with e6, knight c3, d5, d4, so that we got ourselves a kind of the Queen's Gambit declined. But as of now, I have the choice of which version I would like to get. Should I play knight f6, classical way? Should I play like a6, Janowski variation that I chose rather frequently? Or should I go differently? This is the time right now to do it. I played c6 move, going into the triangle Slav as it's called, and my opponent replied with e3 after knight f6. We are going into the Slav defense family more or less, but to my surprise my opponent took on d5 right now. It is considered not the best. As you can tell, Evalbar suggests that I am even better as of now, and it's because of the fact that this is the Karlsbad structure that we have gotten ourselves, usual to the Queen's Gambit decline. However, the biggest issue, the biggest difference is this bishop normally is on g5. As of now, it's closed, so it's a huge advantage to me, and as you can tell, I am no longer suffering from any disadvantage out of the opening, even though I am playing with black pieces against the Grandmaster. On top of that, I was working on some Karlsbad type of structure for a few weeks this year with my group of students, and we discussed this exact scenario that it's not ideal for white, so I was happy to get such position out of the opening and was curious what will the game bring. After bishop d3 I replied with bishop d6, knight e2, castle, bishop d2. As you can tell, this bishop is not the most active in the world. I played rook e8, standard stuff. I will wait a little bit longer with developing the queen side, and my opponent castled short. And I'm not sure at what level you are at as my viewer, each one of you. However, doesn't matter really which level you are at. I think that bishop takes h2 seems kind of tempting. Why is that? Well, obviously, as you can tell, this is kind of the Greek gift that one should always learn about. This is a very known tactic that allows to break through the defense of the opponent's king rather effectively. The idea is that since the knight went on to e2 instead of f3, there is no natural defender of the h2 square, and with that the king is somewhat left alone, and I have the bishop looking there, the knight, queen can enter the game too, so it's rather tempting. On top of that, from what I felt, it is a Grandmaster, he kind of misplayed the opening, now he castled quite quickly, maybe he is feeling off today or whatever, so maybe this is my biggest chance to just crash through the Grandmaster with black pieces. And obviously this is not the only reason why I took, because in the end I indeed took on h2. I tried to calculate as much as possible. So I will try to, let's say, turn off the evaluation bar so that you will not see is it good or is it bad yet. I will just try to bring you through all the variations I've calculated, all the checkmates I have seen, and then you will be able to evaluate it individually. Do you like it? Do you not like it? And then we'll see what is the truth about the sacrifice. Because obviously, putting that aside, I can play normally. Like I can simply try to finish development, knight d7, natural way, knight f8, whatever. I also found that there is the b6, bishop a6 idea, trying to exchange this good bishop, whatever. I have plenty of options how to continue normally in a calm fashion, but now we are about to investigate bishop takes h2. So to begin with, after the sacrifice, obviously white will be taking, and I have knight g4 check. What is important to begin with, it's always the king g1 move, because usually king wants to go back and be kind of safe behind his pieces. However, that's not the case in here, because I can simply play queen h4 and checkmate is, I believe, unavoidable. I have the possibility of going to h2, therefore the only choice for white to survive would be to go with like rook e1, after which I can give a check, another check, knight has to cover, it's the only move, and I can give a check and give a check with the bishop, introducing this other piece into the attack, and after f3, queen takes g2, it's a checkmate. So as you can tell, a pretty miserable situation for white king. Therefore, after knight g4, he is supposed to go up the board. And in here I calculated plenty of choices. Check here, queen g5. Those checks though did not seem effective, because after the check would be covered with the pawn, I don't have any other way to introduce queen into the attack, because this square is covered, this square is covered, so I will not be able to put the queen onto the g file. Queen g5 was more tempting, let's say, immediately trying to bring the queen there, but for the very same reason of f4 move, I don't have a good square to retreat to, simply because the bishop takes away this one. If I go to the h file, rook h1 is played, kinging my queen away. So yeah, it is just simply not working. So already as of now, I was kind of struggling with my calculation initially, but then I found this h5 idea, which not only solidifies the knight, but introduces the idea of pushing the pawn even further up the board in order to push the king towards the center. So in here I calculated mostly the ideas of f3 or f4s, trying to, you know, move the pawn, create some space for the king, and or block the diagonals or lines to my attack. So starting with f3, which is much more easily refuted, I can simply push the pawn. This was the basic of the idea of this h-pawn push, because if the king goes there, this is basically the only square for him. It goes under the discovered attack, so I can, you know, give a check here or there, grabbing the queen because it's the discovery check. I'm winning simply. So basically all of my focus went onto the f4 move, and then also knight f4 as an attempt to, you know, bring the piece into the game, create some escape route for the king, block this diagonal too. After knight f4, I had queen g5 prepared, because now since the knight has blocked the f4 square from the pawn, my queen feels safe here, and I am once again trying to, you know, threaten with some discovery stuff. And if the king goes away to h2, I have a check here, and because the rook is on e file, I can simply take the knight, claim the piece back, and then maintain the pawn advantage and the attack. I am winning the game. So that's why after knight f4 I would be winning. So basically the only thing that is left is the f4 move. And in here I calculated two lines the deepest, let's say, because I wanted to try to deliver one of the two beautiful checkmates. What are those? Let's imagine that I have played a check. King will not go there because we've seen what happens there. He will go to f3, and now I had queen e7 idea. What's the idea? Well, if my opponent is careless, let's say, and plays something like, I don't know, this, I can sack my queen and then deliver such a beautiful checkmate in which, you know, all of my pieces take participation in this beautiful checkmate. So that was one idea. The other idea was that, for example, if my opponent knows what's coming, he will for sure protect this pawn and maybe play queen c1 move, and now I have f5. And yet again, if he plays something careless, like, I don't know, rook h1 because he doesn't see what's coming, there is even more beautiful checkmate. Look at this. Queen e4 takes, takes. And look at that. All of my pieces take part in the checkmate net in the middle of the board with the pawn checkmating the king. I mean, that's the thing of beauty. So this was another checkmate that was really tempting me. And basically the only thing that I had to choose as of now was the move order. Should I go with the pawn first and then play queen e7, or should I do it the other, let's say, way around? So advantage of queen e7 being played first on the board was that indeed move like rook h1 would be a tempting one as an attempt to, grab the pawn, undermine the knight or whatever. But the case is that after h4, king f3, we are entering the variation that I have already shown. But after rook takes h4, I have now yet another queen sacrifice possible with yet another checkmates. So the third one, very, very beautiful one. So those three checkmates made it so tempting for me to sacrifice the bishop on h2. However, after queen e7 move order, I believe that I didn't like one of the options for the opponent, which was I guess f5, maybe trying to create some more space to the king or whatever. So in the end, my thoughts ended at this point that after f4 I would rather give a check, and only after king to f3 is played I would be yet another time choosing between queen e7 or f5, because f5 is also try to transpose, let's say, into few positions, but queen e7 would be my way to go. And the point is this: after queen c1 that we already saw f5 with this checkmate threat, opponent has to create some space for the king, either through the g2 square or the e2 square. So he can do it like separately or combining those ideas. So one way to do it would be to play g3 to try to create this space. I would take it away with the pawn. So h pawn makes its use there in the attack. And then the knight g1 might be played as an attempt to give yet another square for the king, or knight g1 can be played immediately right now. So even though after both of those ideas, including or not the move g3, but I felt like g3 would be more precise, so let's put it that way, I didn't find the checkmate. I didn't. But I would be pushing my pawn up till the end. And at this point I felt, okay, there is no checkmate, but I am having a lot of fun and I would be going full berserk mode. I would be playing c5. Yes, my pawn is hanging. Yes, another one is too, but I want to just go with the attack, everything, sacrifice, whatever. I knew that it's not checkmating yet, but I felt like, practically speaking, humanly speaking, even if I will lose, at least I should have some fun. So this was my approach to it all. So those were the variations I have covered. So as you can tell, we achieved 3 different beautiful checkmates depending on what was the, let's say, move order. The one would be in here with the pawn checkmating the king right in the center, right? The other one would be in here where the rook covered the h4 escape route so that my rook and the knight can create beautiful checkmate pattern. And the very last one was, let me find it, I believe this one, in which the pawn was not taken yet, but the rook enters the game in the very same manner. So all of those 3 checkmates combined, and the fact that at this point I would be able to have some more fun with c5 pushed me into the continuation overall, and I hoped for at least a lot of fun against Grandmaster, even though I knew that, looking at this game and position pragmatically, it's not the correct way of playing. So you can tell I did it for content, as many content creators do. Anyway, what's the problem with all of that? I showed you all of the variations, plenty of them, more and more funnier, but opponent does not have to play f4 or knight f4 of any of that kind of moves. He can play rook h1, which I underestimated completely because it does not weaken e3 pawn yet with f4 move. It does not weaken the e4 square and so on, so on. It just simply brings the rook into the defense, covers this square, and in the previous variations, as you saw, I gave a check, I gave the threat, I gave the other one. Everything was forced, and I was forcing my opponent to do something. In here, I don't have such a move that would be so crushing, so tempting, and this and that. So like my attack is a little bit slowed down. I need to like use one tempo to like create something new, and this one tempo will be deciding. So in here I had the chance to push h4 straight away as an attempt to, after he takes, I have knight f2 trying to overload the king with the fork to the queen and the bishop and opening up of the king and so on. But like even at this point, king is fine. I have material disadvantage. It's the matter of time when will I lose. So instead of that, even though I was surprised and I did not like this surprise, I decided to play Colmer g6 just to cover the h-pawn and continue my threats as they were. The problem is that as of now, since the rook protects the h-file and especially the h4 square, f3 might be played. This f3 move that we covered previously without the rook on h1, saying that it's only a very bad one, because at this point f3 was met with h4, right, and then all the discoveries. With the rook on h1, f3 is perfectly fine. And this is the problem, because this is the most straightforward move against my knight. I have to move it or I have to sacrifice it. And basically it's one of my only attackers as of now, so you don't really want to sacrifice all of your attackers, because who will checkmate, right? So yeah, in here it's becoming harder and harder for me to create anything. I went with queen d6 check, hoping to get f4 on the board so that I would be, transposing to all the ideas that I had along the e file to sacrifice the queen there and checkmate like that. But as of now, knight f4 is a possibility. Yet again, the move that was not really working immediately with the inclusion of rook on h1, it's perfectly fine. So already as of now, I'm struggling to really continue the attack. What can I do? Maybe I can try to exploit the pin with g5, but then my h-pawn is collapsing, and all of a sudden this king is safer than mine, because the bishop is looking there, the rook, queen can answer, and I don't have any checks whatsoever. Rook g5 is incoming, so like I am the one being checkmated, funnily enough. So g5 is out of question, and if so, I don't have much more tactical resources really. I can try to undermine the knight by taking the pawn in between and then creating a g5 threat, but I mean, opponent can just simply, I don't know, trade, right, and then kick away the rook. If I go back, go away with the king, yet again claiming the piece advantage. Yes, it's for like 2 pawns, but taking into account my lack of development of the queen side, it's yet again just a matter of time when will I lose, and probably since I'm playing Grandmaster I should resign as of now. So all in all, I decided to try to have another trick, let's say, and I've played a move like h4 check, trying to close the king there on g4 on g3, because obviously king will not be able to take off because of the fork, so the rook takes. And then initially I wanted to play g5 move, but only afterwards I've spotted that, well, opponent can just simply take the knight, and if I take here he takes, if I take here he takes. Once more the bishop pair, 2 additional pawns, and the open king means that my king is much weaker than this one, and once again everything flips, and yeah, I am the one being checkmated shortly, I guess, or at least in big danger. So I've decided that okay, maybe g5 is not the way to go yet. I've played like knight takes a3, takes, queen d2. Now I have played g5 with the oblivious hopes that after my opponent will take the rook and I take his, he will take the pawn going forward with the king. But I mean, why why would he do that, right? He is up a piece, better developed. See, he just simply went back to f2, and I guess that was the time for me to resign. So like as you can tell, pretty short game, only 19 moves, so you could say that okay, I get crushed. I would say it's not really the truth. The truth is that I crushed myself with too much hopes and all that, but I had some fun. We also had a fun discussion after the game. So going back to the time when he baited me into the sacrifice, he just said that there is like a rule of thumb that you can also try to include in your games. So the rule is that whenever the rooks and the queen are connected on the first rank, it's really hard for moves like this to work out, because there is simply too much connection and all that stuff between the white pieces, and they are coordinating rather well in terms of the defense. So that's why he played castle so fast. Like, it's not because he wanted to bait me in anything, he just knew it's of no, not a big deal, right? And he just continued development, and it's my fault that I got baited, wasted over half an hour calculating all this, only to miss like rook h1 defensive resource and get a downfall from there. But yeah, as I've said, funny game, a nice chat afterwards. A lesson to be taken for sure. One thing I am only slightly worried is that I really got very good position out of the opening. So like what could have been, we don't know, we will not know. Next time I will try to not sacrifice my dreams like that on h2, and we'll see what will the game bring. As of now, for this game, this is it. I hope you had as much fun as I did, because some of the checkmates were indeed beautiful. But thank you all for watching. We'll see each other tomorrow. Maybe not so funny game, but also it should be a longer one. So we'll see each other then. Thank you all for watching this one, and see you. Bye bye.